Alright, here we are at the workbench again, and I've got my Bondo right here, and my card, and my handguards. So here's the Bondo I'm using, and that's the Glaze and Spot Putty, and we're just going to go ahead and open this up, and get some started on the handguard here, and then we'll just start spreading it out. I got my little used Apple card there that I will just spread this with. And it looks like I got this off camera just a little bit, so let's just go ahead and go through this real quick. Alright guys, so if you'll notice about halfway through that, maybe not quite halfway, maybe a quarter way into that, I started to use my finger. Come to find out, that goes a lot faster for big surface areas like this. I finished a lot faster than I normally do with just the card. But there we are, so let's keep moving. Alright, so we've got all the putty on and it's dried. So let's just go ahead and move that out of the way. And let's get our sanding sponge here. And we're going to start sanding on this. It's a little rough here still from how we put the Bondo on. So we're just going to sand it. And if you'll see here, the Bondo sand's really easy. I mean, you can already see how much that's taken off and how much smoother it looks. So let's just go ahead and sand this for a little bit. And then I do stop periodically to vacuum up all the dust, both out of the sanding sponge and off the work surface. So let's just get going. Alright guys, so we got the first one done, so we're going to do the second one here. And as you can see, I never showed you before, but it is a 120 grit sanding sponge that we're using, and that's just making it worse. There you can see it. So let's just go ahead and get this second one sanded, and we'll see where we're at when we're all done with both of them. So I'm just going to get some water here in my spray bottle, and I'm just going to spray down the area that I just sanded. Sorry about that. Just to make sure that I get all of the fine dust. It'll get picked up with the water onto the towel, just to make sure that these are nice and clean and dust free, and ready for inspection to see what we need to do next. Alright, so now let's take a look at these, check them out, see what we got. I'm already looking at some of these ridges showing. You can still see some of the 3D print lines on there. So there's the Bondo, and I think we're just going to have to do some touch-up spots. Alright, so here we are, and it is dry, and that's what I love about working with this Bondo. Is that it dries really fast and you can sand it, and I'm already putting a new pair of gloves on and getting ready to do touch-up work over the first layer of Bondo that we already put on. It just dries that fast, and that's why I like working with it. If you watch on YouTube, there's a lot of other channels and other people, and everybody has their own technique. And I've seen a bunch of different resins and different types of spray urethanes and polyurethanes and all these things that have been tried or used by other people to cover up 3D print lines. I still prefer my Bondo method. I think it's affordable and it's fast and easy to work with. It simply just dries when it comes in contact with the air, so you have so much time to work with it before it starts to harden up. Then you can sand it, clean it, get all the dust residue off, inspect it, and do another layer just like we are now to get spots that you missed, and you can do it within a matter of 30 minutes. So, and a tube of Bondo, depending on where you get it, is between like $3 and $5. I've tried actually on these handguards. For the back side, I tried using the polyurethane spray, and it didn't really get rid of the lines. I didn't cover them up really because you don't see the bottom. You can leave it white. It's not shown, as you can see here. I'm going over all the edges and the top plate, the areas that are going to be seen as you're wearing the armor. The back, I don't worry too much. And the bottom, where it's going to be attached to the glove, I don't worry about too much because you're not going to see those. The back of it, you can see, is still a little bit white. That's going to be on my wrist, and you're going to have the forearm or the gauntlet armor that is going to detract and distract you from seeing any sort of 3D print lines that are on that. And I will paint it to match, but it doesn't really need to be hidden as much. It's not going to be in as much detail in an obvious of a place. So that being said, let's just go ahead and get this second one done and see where we are after that. Alright guys, so we're back. Let's go ahead and put our mask back on. This is our N95 mask that I use when I sand. I don't think I showed you that earlier, so I just want to make sure I showed that to you real quick. You don't want to be sanding Bondo without any sort of protection. You don't want to breathe in the fine dust that it makes. That's why I'm constantly vacuuming it up and getting it out of the work area. So let's just go ahead. And we got our 120 grit sanding sponge here that we've been using, and of course these are all voiceovers because I am turning the tunes on while I do all this sanding. So let's just go ahead and get this next layer of Bondo sanded down here. Alright guys, I'm going to slow it down here and show you what I'm doing. If you'll notice here, I'm sanding just the one side and I'm checking right here that ridge. If you can barely make out that ridge, and I'm checking it on the other one too. That ridge, and you can see me sanding perpendicular to it to make sure that I have it defined. That ridge is actually required per 501st guidelines that it be in there, and actually has to land between your pointer finger and your middle finger is how it has to lay on your hand. So that ridge needs to be defined. So I want to make sure that I don't cover it up with too many layers of Bondo. So I'm making sure that it is still there, visible, and that you can feel it and see it. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now, is just trying to make sure that it's smooth, that the ridge is still defined, and that we have a good coverage of Bondo to get rid of the 3D print lines. And so to me, if you're looking at it right here, it's a little bit out of focus, but it looks pretty good. There's a little bit right there. You can see the little ripples on it, and I think there's a little bit on each one. But I think by the time I do a couple coats of primer and then paint, and these are all also gonna get the blue 501st stripe on there, that should cover all that up and we should be good. Alright guys, so here is a better look at the little spots that we missed. You can see them on each one. So I've got a couple little lines here and a scuff mark at the top, and you can see the back I didn't do, and then that's the same thing, some little bit of scuff marks there. Looks like there's a little pit right there. So there's little scuff marks there. So I'm going to go ahead and touch these up. I'm not going to show you that. You guys get the idea. We've done it enough already. It's rinse and repeat until you get it the way you want it. Everything else on this side looks good, except for that side. The ridge looks good. So I'm just going to touch a little bit of that up, and then we'll start painting. Alright guys, here we go. They got their first coat of primer on them.
Alright guys, so here they are.
I didn't show the painting on camera. That will probably be in another video. I'll show some of that, but this one I didn't. I just wanted to see the progress that I've made so far. So now they have one coat of primer. You can still see there's some Bondo showing on each one. So let's go ahead and put another coat of primer on them and keep moving forward. Alright guys, so here we go. Magic of editing, another coat of primer. So you can see now a lot of the Bondo is all covered up. It looks nice and smooth. I did wet sand this with 600 grit sandpaper to get it to this smoothness. And I think now we are ready for some gloss white. So let's go ahead. I'm using this Krylon Fusion gloss white. And we're going to go ahead and get a layer of paint on these. Alright, so here we go. Look at that. We got a coat of white on there. Okay, it kind of looks good, feels good, but there are some mistakes. And if you guys have seen some of my other videos, I've probably mentioned it before, I am not the best painter. Rattle cans, whatever people want to call them, spray paint. When I did modeling, I used an airbrush. I haven't been able to find my airbrush. I'm probably going to buy another one, so I'm just using rattle cans, but you can see all the imperfections right here. And some of that has to do with how I sprayed it, and it was sitting down and it pooled up and whatever. But I'm not a huge fan of spray cans for their inconsistencies, but I haven't got a setup to do anything else with yet. So still a work in progress, but all of these are minor and can be sanded and fixed. So we'll just work on that. So here we go. Look at that. Editing just like that. So here is another coat after I sanded those and put it on, and you'll see even more imperfections. Now I screwed up the top this time. Again, I'm not the best painter. You can see some bubbles and some pooling of the paint. You'll see it right there. Really stands out there. That has to go for sure. That bubble, those poolings, we'll sand those out. So basically how I'm going to take care of all of this is I'm just going to sand it and cover it up with the blue paint and weathering. So let's just head over to the sink here, and let's go ahead, just like I was telling you before, we are just going to go ahead and wet sand this with some 600 grit sandpaper. And I'm going to wet the sandpaper, and I'm going to wet the part, and we're just going to get that all sanded out for a couple of reasons. So if you read the CRLs for the 501st, your clone trooper is supposed to be satin or matte white, and I have gloss white. So this is accomplishing two things right now. One, it's sanding off the gloss of the paint. So it's going to rough it up, it's going to get rid of the gloss shine, and it's going to make it look more satin and matte. 2, it's getting rid of some of the imperfections that I actually have in the paint. So I'm getting a 2-for deal here. So let's just go ahead and keep sanding this down until we get what we're looking for. And you also have to be careful of this too, that you don't sand off too much white all the way down to your primer, which I did on my helmet a couple of times, and then you have to reapply the white paint again. So it's kind of a balancing act, but if you take the 600 grit sandpaper and wet sand it and go nice and slow and check it while you're doing it every once in a while, you should get a nice result when you're done. Alright guys, so here we are. We'll turn the water off, get both of these, and take a look at them. I'm not too happy with this one. You can see a little bit of the gray primer coming through there on the ridge. It looks like I sanded that a little bit too much. The other one looks good, but I'm not going to be too worried about that because the blue stripe will cover it. Alright guys, onto the gloves. So here's a screenshot of the eBay posting that I used. You can see they're around $15. They come in a variety of colors, and of course I picked black. And there they are. So now that we have the gloves here, we can get our hand plate out. You see it goes on your hand, fit on the glove right there. Okay, so what I liked about these gloves is that they do have this extra length right here, and they are leather on the palm and then the fabric on the top. And if you see right here, it's going to say, as soon as I focus it, it'll say right there, genuine leather. So the bottom is a genuine leather, and then that fabric part is this DuPont Nomex, which is like supposed to be like fire retardant and all this other stuff. They are like flight gloves. I'm not too worried about any of that fire retardant capability of it. I liked them because they have the extra length. That's why I picked these. So for that extra length, I'll just show you what I'm talking about. For when you have your armor on, this extra length will actually end up inside your gauntlet or your forearm piece, so that your wrist, you don't have to worry about skin being exposed. It's supposed to stay as that black covering, and with it being the fabric on the top, it's pretty much going to match your fabric undersuit that you have, and then you have the leather palm. So if we measure this real quick, see, look at that. We've got a good 4 inches that it's going to be up underneath your armor, so you don't have to worry about any skin showing. And here's a piece of armor, and we'll show you a quick gauntlet example here. And look at how far up I can pull that up my arm, all the way to my elbow, and you still see the black, so you don't have to worry about any skin being exposed. And I'm actually going to use this extra length later to help attach my gauntlet to the glove. So if we lay the other one on top here, look, you can see how much, like half of it, halfway up the gauntlet is inside or over the glove, or it's inside the gauntlet, whatever way you want to word it. And that's one of the things I liked about these gloves, rather than getting a shorter glove and trying to figure out how you're going to keep your wrist skin from being exposed. I just got these longer gloves, and there you go. With the handguard on top of it, you have a gauntlet and your handguard. So let's go ahead and start putting these together so we can attach those to the glove, right? So we'll take this gauntlet back off, we'll take this glove off, and you'll see over here I have some Velcro. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach the hook and loop to our gloves and our, I want to say gauntlet, but it's actually the hand armor. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Alright guys, So here we have everything that we need. I went ahead and I cut the Velcro to size off camera. So those are gonna fit right on here on the back side like that. And we have our super glue here off to the side that we will use to attach that. But I wanted to show you real quick. You can kind of see this little shiny reflective on the back. You can also, if you look real close, see the 3D print lines, and you can't see those on the front. And the front is also a little bit less shiny, right? Because we needed to sand that to get that satin matte finish per regulation. We don't want this shiny gloss on the front side. I didn't sand the back. Again, that's going to be attached to the glove. We don't really care. So here's all of our stuff. So let's go ahead and peel this Velcro apart, because this is both the hook and loop together. So the fuzzy side would be your loop, and then the hard rough side is your hook, and that is actually what we are going to put on the handguards. We'll put the more aggressive, scratchy hook side right on the back right there, and I'm going to save this fuzzy loop side for the glove, right? I'm going to put that on the glove, and the whole reason I'm going to do that, let me pull the glove back over here, that we're going to put the soft side on the glove is that's going to be something you're going to be handling, and you're also going to be putting the glove on and then shoving it through the gauntlet. And I wanted something that was soft and not aggressive and scratchy like the hook. So if we put the hook side on the hand plate, then it will be basically in an area that won't hurt anything or anybody. It's just going to hook right down onto your glove. You don't have to worry about it being all scratchy. And I'm putting it on the big side because you can see this side has a gap in your hand. So the thinner, has less surface area. The other side's bigger and has more surface area on this side, and that's why I'm going to glue it to it. And that's just the way I'm going to do it. If I want to later, I could put more Velcro on the other side, but in all actuality, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've come up with a new idea that I want to try to hold these down, and I will go over that in another video. And so let's just go ahead and start gluing these ones down. So we're just going to use our super glue, and we're going to put it on the back here. Even if I had self-adhesive Velcro, I would still add glue to it, just to make sure that it's a nice and strong bond, which is why I'm using super glue, because you're going to be pulling this plate on and off your glove constantly, because you have to take it off to put your hand through your forearm piece or your gauntlet. So anytime you put your gauntlet on or want to take your gauntlet off, you have to pull this handguard off, and you don't want the Velcro coming off with it. And so that's why I'm using super glue, to make sure that it is on nice and strong. Now, like I said before, I've thought of another way to do this, and I'm actually not that happy with these handguards. I've already reprinted new ones a little bit bigger. These ones are a little bit small. Once I get the glove all together, you'll see at the end. And so I'm going to completely remake them anyways, and that'll be a part 2 video, and I will show you what I have in mind for that, to attach them. The whole Bondo painting process is going to be exactly the same, but the attaching to the glove will be different. I'll have to modify my glove and the new hand guards that I make. But this is a very acceptable way of doing it, and once part 2 is out and I get that all completed, you'll be able to see both and decide for yourself which one you want to use or which one you want to do. But for how I've been wearing the glove so far, this works. So we got those all glued on, and we'll let it dry for a little bit. Since it's super glue, it probably won't take too long. Make sure there's lots of pressure on it, holding it on, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, so there we have it, our hook and loop all done. let's keep going. And I think the next step will be painting. So here's our gloss enamel. That is our 501st blue, and this is the Rust-Oleum, and I picked this because it matches the blue the best in my opinion, so that's what we're going to use. Alright guys, so here we have a piece of newspaper down and our handguards. Got my paint here, and because it is in a rattle can and it's spray paint, I just spray it into this tub here, and then you can use the brush to dip in there just as if it was like a jarred paint, and paint these up. And I have asked a artist assistant of mine to come in and paint these up for me. So let's just go ahead and get these painted. Again, I like all the 501st markings, just like with my helmet, to be painted by hand, because this is how the troops would have done it in the field when they decorated their armor. They didn't come pre-painted with the different colors for the different units from the factory. The troops did that themselves. Your armor comes just shiny white, which is why they call them shinies when they're brand new, because their armor isn't dirty or dingy or used up yet. It's brand new off the floor. These guys decorated these themselves in the field, and so that's the look that I try to emulate. So here we go. Alright guys, so here they are, all finished up and painted, and I do kind of like the look of the rough edges, and it's not an exactly perfect straight line, and there's some straight brush strokes. Looks perfect. So now here we go to the weathering, and of course I forgot to film it. I got excited, made my little mixture, and painted it up. And I just used all these acrylic paints that you see up there and some water to dilute them and make like a little paste, so it's not a thick paint, because you want it to look like dirt and weathering, not just solid paint. So I just used this rag here, or you can use a glove, you know, the nitrile gloves, latex glove, whatever, and do it with your fingers. I matted it. I just tapped it on there with this rag right here. You just dip it in there and mat it on. If you watch the helmet video, I actually show the weathering in the helmet video. This one, my apologies, I got excited and just weathered them without filming it. And I just used these Artist Slough acrylic paints from the craft store. They're like $1.99, super cheap. And just mix them together in a whatever bin you want, it's disposable, to the shade that you desire. Alright guys, here we go. We got our gloves, we got our glue, we got our clamps, we got the hand guards, and I've got these newspaper clippings right here that I'm going to put on the inside of the gloves where the glue is going to go, because since it's cloth, it's going to squeeze through it. And I don't want a big goopy mess in there. So that way it'll get on the newspaper, and then we can just pull the newspaper back out when we're done. So right now we've got to align the newspaper with where our glue is going to go for our Velcro, to make sure that everything's all lined up and good to go. So let's go ahead and get our newspaper in there, and we're gonna have to put these gloves on and mark up where we want the Velcro to be placed and glued. Like I said, that little bridge right there that we talked about earlier has to fit in between your index finger and your middle finger, your pointer finger and your middle finger, per the 501st regulations. So we're just going to go ahead and put this glove on, and we're going to shoot. We better make sure we have the right side. Dang, that was close. Alright, so let's make sure we have the right glove for the right handguard, because that's going to determine where your Velcro is going to go and how it's going to be orientated. So we'll put this on, make sure that my newspaper hasn't moved. I can feel it right there, and we'll put the handguard right here. right? So we'll see. This one you're going to need an extra hand, or at least that's how I did it. So I am just going to call for my assistant here. We'll have her zoom in here, and then come over here and help me mark this so that we know exactly where our Velcro needs to be placed on our hand. And the only reason I'm not doing it this way is because I don't want my hand to stay in it, and I want to be able to clamp it down. Otherwise, you could just put glue on the Velcro since it's attached to the bottom of this hand plate and stick it on here. But then when you go, you'd have to clamp it through the glove and through the hand plate, and I don't want to do that. I want to get enough, make sure the clamping force is good on the Velcro and in the right spot to hold it on there. So we're just going to kind of look and see where the Velcro lands, and we're just going to make a mark. And we're not worried about the mark because we're going to cover it up with the Velcro. Plus it'll always be covered by the handguard too. But we'll just do that, and that's how we'll determine where our glue and Velcro is going to be placed. So let's go ahead and keep working on that. Alright guys, so here we are at the glove with the Velcro glued on there, and I need to give you a little update. It happened all off camera. I used this weld bond, which is more of a flexible glue, and that was no good. It was a no-go. I came out while it was drying and it wasn't even sticking, so I had to go and use super glue. So I went to my trusty Gorilla super glue here and reapplied that to it, and now it is stuck down really good, which is great for pulling the handguard on and off. And the newspaper is glued to it really good too, you can see, which is exactly why we put that newspaper in there, because if we didn't, then literally the glove would be glued shut. Whatever seeped through would have went to the bottom half of the glove, and you wouldn't be able to slide your hand in there. And the newspaper I can just rip out later. But there's the handguard all on there, and this is what I was talking about earlier. If you look, it doesn't quite go over to my thumb very far. It doesn't cover my hand on either side all the way. It is really good at the knuckles. It's supposed to, the front edge is supposed to be on the knuckles. You can see how I'd like this wider. See, this needs to come out wider over here. But the knuckles line up perfect, so I'm gonna have to resize the handguard in my software before I 3D print another one, and I already have done that. So like I said earlier, go ahead and keep an eye out for part 2, which is going to have the new bigger handguards and a new way that I thought of to hold them on there that I'm gonna try, and we'll see how that works out, and you guys can see that coming soon. Alright guys, so here's some photos of the new handguards that I 3D printed. You can see they're quite a bit larger. They completely cover up the old ones, and that just goes to show that you should wait till you have the gloves before you measure your hand, that your glove actually is bigger. Your hand is bigger with the glove on, so I measured those and fitted those to my hand bare before I had the gloves, and now I have to redo it. But anyways, part 2 will be coming out with doing the new handguards, and go ahead and click that subscribe button so you're ready when that comes out. Comment, leave a thumbs up, whatever you guys like to do, and I'll see you in the next video.